Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email, by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal, or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone, including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
All right, welcome everybody. Glad you could be with us. We're going to be accessing the SERP Institute's free math materials. Now, I always iterate that it's free. When you get into SERP Institute's website, you'll notice that there are a lot of offerings and you can get into what we call the rabbit hole. But what we focus on as far as TCAL goes, we give you what the free materials are. Throughout the next 45 minutes, we'll be talking about aligning our lessons to the Texas AEL Content Standards version 3. Then we'll talk a little bit more about what's coming up in December, which is the final installment of our series. Our objectives today: discover the math materials that are free from SERP Institute, and also discover how to find and download the free material. So the resources for adult education and literacy instruction, we did cover language arts in October. You do have an opportunity to go out to the portal and see that. Today's focus again is math. And then in December, we're going to focus on social studies and science. So let's talk about our math goals for our adult learners. Certainly for those of you who teach high school equivalency, the ABE and ASE students, we want them to be able to pass their exam, right? And that's basic math, geometry, algebra, graphs and functions, and more. But is that our only math goal? Well, no, absolutely not. We want personal and workspace as well. Our students are parents, so maybe they're looking for resources for their children or their high school students. So many of us remember sitting around the kitchen table and helping our kids with homework. And so we want our adult students to be able to do that as well. When it comes to mathematical problem solving, communicating mathematically, reasoning, making math connections, and using math representations to model and interpret practical solutions. So let me hear from you, ESL for professionals and IET instructors. So ESL for professionals, how do you use math in your classroom and or IET? Teaching students the effective use of cash registers. Love it. I gear them more toward the CASAS testing requirements. Okay.
Daryl had a great comment. He said budgeting.
Oh, that's a good one. I missed that. So yeah, thank you for that, Daryl. Thanks. Absolutely. Budgeting is very important in all of our families. Developmental math, make connections with manipulatives. Good. Oh, Bradley takes shopping trips to the grocery store to learn names of items and total cost. That is hands-on learning at its finest. I love it. Well, thank you all very much for participating. Let's go into SERP Institute. For those of you who are not quite familiar yet, SERP is the Strategic Education Research Partnership. It's part of the National Academy of Sciences. It establishes long-term partnerships with school districts addressing critical problems of practice. It is a nonprofit organization, and they give us classroom-friendly solutions. They do offer free resources. Remember always to choose resources that are skill and age appropriate for your adult learners. Grade level equivalency. Now, as we get into SERP Institute's offerings, you're going to see grade levels. As in elementary, you're going to see 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade references. And I want you to just get that out of your head and don't be discouraged or think that, no, I don't teach elementary, so this is not for me. Yes, absolutely. These resources are used very successfully with our adult learners. Let me take a minute here. Your organization's math diagnostic testing. Someone in the chat pod mentioned CASAS, and that's excellent. You're going to teach those objectives. So when we talk about skill and age appropriateness, skill comes from your diagnostic testing. And I know that you all know how to interpret your exam scores to ensure you properly prepare not only for your classroom as a whole, but also for individual students' instruction. Age appropriate. I talked about this in the language arts SERP webinar last month. Some of the material may be geared more towards middle school or elementary age students, but you can pick topics, especially in the language arts. I have found that the math, it's across the board. It's age appropriate for all. So don't be discouraged when you see that terminology today and when you do your own digging into SERP Institute. All right, so when we get into the SERP homepage here in just a couple of minutes, these are the first things that you're going to see. One is a login create account, and the other is educator resources. If you have not yet had a chance to create your own account, don't worry, you'll have plenty of opportunities after today's webinar, and you don't have to have a login for participation a little bit later in today's session. But this is what you'll see. And when you create your account, it's very simple. There's maybe 7 or 8, 9 fields to fill in, such as your name and contact information, your role, etc. Again, there's no subscription charge, so don't worry about that. So these are the 4 tools that I chose for today. There are more than these 4, but I wanted to choose 4 to showcase in today's webinar. The first being tools for sense making and mathematics, and then math by example, poster problems, and we'll finish out with algebra by example. Take a look at this word problem. A dragonfly can fly about 50 feet in 2 seconds. How long would it take for the dragonfly to go 275 feet? And you'll notice that I gave an image here because it's very important to always give context. Some of our students may not even know what a dragonfly is. So I always like to give context. This is a word problem that we're going to focus on over the next few minutes. SERP's homepage is located at this web address. It is serpinstitute.org. So let me get over to the home page. This is serpinstitute.org. And like I said, this is the login create account area here. When I hover over it, it shows up in orange, and then educator resources. And you can see here the huge offering that SERP Institute has for us, not only literacy, math we're talking about today, science and social studies. There's just so much that you could get into and use for your classrooms. So first up, let's take a look at sense-making tools. These are tools for solving math word problems. Do your math students have any problems with word problems? Are there any challenges? Of course, our students have problems. And so these sense-making tools, I think, are really important, and they're quite easy to incorporate into our classroom. I'm going to leave it to you on your own after today's webinar to get into the strategies, the understanding. There's so much research here. There's reading comprehension topic here, but I want to get right to the tools. And the first one is the STEM question solution triangles. That's the first of 3. We're going to get into using multiple representations and also mathematical diagrams. This first one, I think, is pretty neat. It's a STEM question solution, and this is what it looks like. Take a look, first of all, here with me. I love this. I think we should have t-shirts with this slogan on it, helping students move beyond answer getting. There's nothing wrong with focusing on the solution of a math problem, but students can be observed using truly haphazard approaches to getting a solution. One teacher referred to this as mashing numbers. Typically, our students try to quickly find the numbers embedded in the word problem and then run through various familiar operations to come up with an answer. So looking at word problems, there are actually 3 parts. This is small for my eyesight, so I created my own PDF. There, we can all see this a little better. So the STEM for our example word problem, a dragonfly can fly fast. It can go about 50 feet in 2 seconds. So that's our STEM. So you should offer your students a brief description of some quantitative information. The next thing that you should do as the instructor is to ask students to use the information in the STEM and apply it to a situation that is different or more detailed. For example, how long would it take for the dragonfly to go 275 feet? Or how far could the dragonfly fly in 11 seconds? So then you come to the third point on the triangle, and that's the solution. and it provides an answer to the question using the STEM's information, but also provides insight to how these types of situations can be handled in math. So for example, 50 feet in 2 seconds indicates a unit rate of 25 feet per second. So 275 divided by 25 equals 11. Therefore, our answer, the dragonfly can fly 275 feet in 11 seconds. So not only do they provide you with this example, but it also gives you, the instructors, how to use this model with students. And here's your sticky notes that go with it. This is what you would say to the student. Can you think of a math question that makes sense with the STEM? And now when it comes to solution, you say, now solve the problem you created. So this gives not only a visual, but it breaks down the word problem.
Shelley, I did have a question that came to me
Okay.
individually. Now, all of the resources for math, they have to have an account, right? They can't access these without creating an account, correct?
Well, that's a tricky question. The answer is you do not have to have an account to get into the website and view the resources and to read the articles and watch the videos. You must have an account to download the materials. That's the catch. They come to you in PDF, or you can drop them right into your Google Docs.
Okay. And I think that's the question that this person was asking. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yep, for sure. Good question. Thank you. Okay, multiple representations. That's what we want to get into next. It's also part of the sense making.
How would teachers who do not have experience in STEM vocabulary or experience teaching know what STEM is? How would you advise?
Good question. What I have done is to take that terminology STEM and turn it into just a conversation. Student will go with Jane. So Jane, what is the issue here? What is this word problem telling us? What do we know? What is the known information? And that becomes the STEM. Oh, and I like this suggestion too from Dr. Noella. Students should be allowed to work in pairs, think out loud during instruction. Yeah, absolutely. So I like the question and I like the suggestion. Even during pairing or group work, you could ask your students to together come up with what is the STEM? What is the word problem asking us? And they could come up with that. Now, if you're teaching one-on-one, like many of us have done, then you can have that conversation with your student. Tiffany says, so it's like using the cubes method for word problem. The U in cubes is to underline the question. Yes, absolutely. It's exactly like that. For sure. Thank you. Okay, using multiple representations. This is probably one of my favorite activities that we're going to cover today. I really like the layout, and I love that there's a worksheet. You know how much we love having templates. And so there's a one problem many ways worksheet here, and it's available to you. You don't even have to sign in for this one because it's not on the download resources page, but you can download this sheet, and it's a little small.
One more great comment from Bradley. He says, I teach visualization of a problem, how to act out the scenario in their heads.
Okay, so this would be a good worksheet for us, right, Bradley? I like to teach visually as well. So this is how I filled in the worksheet. We'll start with diagram because this is very visual and you all can have a chuckle at my attempt at drawing a dragonfly. Let's start here. So we can draw a number line, right? And our known information from the problem, let me scroll back up, is we know that a dragonfly can fly 50 feet in 2 seconds. And so we can start there on our number line with 50. We know that that dragonfly can go 50 feet. And so then we can hash it off by 25 and we would ultimately get to 275, right? Now, what if we used a chart or a table? We could have our students fill this in. You could even draw one on your bulletin board or whiteboard, and you can use this. It would be blank except for seconds and feet. You fill in the zeros, and you could put your known information, 2 seconds at 50 feet, and have your students fill in the rest, and they would get to Guess what? They would get to 11 seconds at 275 feet. What if you did an equation? What if you have a little bit more advanced students, have them do the equation of distance equals rate times time, or those who you think would do well with a graph, and then have them do the summary. It flies 50 feet in 2 seconds. That's a ratio of 25 feet per second. So it takes 11 seconds for the dragonfly to go 275 feet. 25 times 11 is 275. Let's get back to our sense-making screen. We covered STEM question solution triangles. We covered using multiple representations. And the last one, mathematical diagrams. I'm going to hang on to this till a little bit later in the webinar. Let's head back to our slides. Again, helping students move beyond answer getting. Let's do a quick stop for a quest. On your own, take about 2, 3, 4 minutes and go out to serpinstitute.org and go out to sense making and mathematics. Find the mathematical diagram and come back ready to share the definition of a diagram of a problem situation in math.
Carol found 5 levels of diagramming.
Good. Good. This website, y'all, is amazing. Anyway, so the math diagrams, it's a diagram of a problem situation in mathematics where the numbers come from. Numbers can be known, unknown, or variables or sets of numbers. And so that's a great resource that I hope that you will revisit time and again. All right, so this is something that we wanted to incorporate today after each of our elements, and that is to stop, reflect, and share. Take a minute to do just that. Knowing what you know now about finding the free resource tools for sense making and math. We talked about the STEM question solution triangles. We talked about using multiple representations. We had that PDF template, one problem, many ways, and then we just found the mathematical diagrams. So how are you going to incorporate these into your classroom? Are you thinking of individual students who could really benefit from one or more of these resources? And what about you, ESL instructors? How do you envision using these resources for your students? You know, when I taught ESL, this was many years ago, but I enjoyed incorporating math into the English language learning because so many of our students didn't really need the math basics. They just needed the English translation, if you will, the technical terms.
Great comments in the chat pod, Shelley.
I know, I'm reading. These are amazing. Visual diagrams and hands-on. Tiffany, I like the one problem, many ways template. We all know that there are many ways to solve math problems. My way might be different than another teacher's way and even a student's way of solving the problem. Love it.
Yep. And Carol is teaching technical math for blueprint reading and circuit analysis. Oh my goodness. The classes are for mechatronics technician training. So Carol, oh my goodness, this website will probably be able to help you, I would think.
All right, we're going to move on to math by example. Take a look at this. This is a torn off sheet. This is what we normally give our student. And how do our students react? What do they do with this? Do they start sweating? Do they have the face of, oh my goodness, not more word problems? All right. Well, let's take a look at math by example. I don't know if you've guessed maybe what this might be about or if you've already gone out to take a look, but let's look at math by example together. It's a powerful math teaching strategy and it's example based. Do you remember what I said at the top of the hour? And that is grades 4 and 5. Don't be discouraged. Don't be distracted by that because these methods are really, really good for our adult learners. Now, let's take a look. You have articles here, how the assignments work, learning with examples in the assignment list. But we're going to go straight out to download free materials because I want to get to the meat of finding the lessons for math by example. So to do that, I'm going to switch screens over to our menu is what I like to call it. And it looks like this. These are the download materials. Now, you would need to have an account, a free account, and you would need to log in to be able to download. But I want to show you, first of all, compiled materials. There is a student workbook and there's an answer key. I recommend that you stay away from compiled materials because you're going to come away with so many pieces of paper on your PDF download. So I would go individual. I would go just by assignments and by topic. First thing I would do, though, is here under additional resources, Introduction to Algebra by Example, there's one for teachers and one for students. I don't have that PDF downloaded for sharing today, but I have looked at it and it's amazing. You will want to make sure that you have your copy and you have a copy for your students. So to go by assignment, what if we scroll down and we're looking at our Texas AEL content standards, and we want to choose a lesson? I don't know, let's do order of operations, pre-algebra. How about that? So we would click here because I don't want all of them. I don't want to click everything and download everything. I just want to take a look at unit 1.6 and I'm going to download. So I would click here. It comes downloaded directly to my computer and it shows up in my files as a downloaded PDF file, and I can use it however I need to just after that. So let me show you what that looks like.
Tiffany had a great question about, are these OER and are they adaptable? And I said yes, and they are free to use. And if you download them as Google Docs, I believe you can adapt them, but we'd have to look at the OER license to make sure. But
Oh,
I
okay.
did share that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Excellent. The order of operations lesson is a full lesson and it talks about.
Bradley has a question. How do you get the printable math by example that is not fourth and fifth grade?
Well, the simple answer is you don't, but you ignore that it's fourth and fifth grade. You go back to your TABE or CASAS and you determine what is your skill level for your students. Or you're doing diagnostic teaching in your class and you're determining, oh, this student needs order of operations lessons, and this student needs whatever topic they're struggling with. And then you go out to get the lessons. Does that make sense? You just sort of forget. You ignore that these are grade levels because all the lessons are at that skill level. Think of it that way. Do you have students on a fifth grade reading level? Certainly we do. Do you have students who are on a fifth grade math level? Absolutely. And that's how you can incorporate these resources. I tell you what, folks, we're going to move on to poster problems. If I have time at the end, I'll circle back. Here's another good example, that same question that you have about grade level. These are grade level lessons for diagnostic. These are poster problems. Again, you just ignore that it's for a certain grade level. I know we don't teach grade level, but we teach grade level equivalency. And so you'll see the seventh grade curriculum and the sixth grade curriculum. Just forget that. Just look at it as, oh, there's curriculum available and there's lessons that are already pre-made and ready to walk right into your classroom with you on Monday or any day next week. The one that I really like, that I have taken a look at quite a few times, is Walking the Line. I really like this, so I encourage you to go back out and take a look at that. Now, let me point out something else for you, is teacher tune-ups. Those of you who it may have been a minute since you finished up your undergraduate or your graduate program, maybe you need some tuning up. Certainly there's the Master Teacher Academy that TCAL has in place for math, but there's also this resource for you that's right at your fingertips. And you can take a look at some of these lessons in math, especially math diagnostics. So poster problems, I love this. You start out as a classroom discussion, and then you move into working in groups, and then you do student presentations. Have any of you used the museum lesson in your classrooms in language arts where you build the posters and then you walk around the classroom and you comment? Well, this is something you can do in math as well.
Bradley just said, I work with students that must have an 8th grade math skill level to get into the program. So Bradley, maybe looking at all the different resources to kind of see what would help. And Kelly says several of my developmental ed students realized we were reviewing the same level of math as their elementary children. I told them, great, now you can help them and do your homework at the same time.
Yeah, I really like the poster problems. And again, this goes back to multiple representations that we talked about earlier. So back to the poster problems, these incorporate assessment tools like quizzes and exit tickets that can only go so far. Teachers become skilled at managing the classroom and in providing motivating activities for students. We see that they often aspire to reach the next level, and that is diagnostic teaching. There are 6 phases. We talked about a few of these, but there is the launch. You pose a problem, then you workshop, then you post share comment. And then there's a teacher-led discussion. And finally, there's a focus problem and the same concept in a new context. So I encourage you to go out and take a look at this lesson. It is a really robust resource. Let's talk about aligning SERP math lessons with Texas AEL Content Standards version 3. Think about your content standards. And if we were to take a lesson, say in data analysis or even order of operations, then it would be under sub-area 7, the data analysis, our sub-area standard would be C because it's determining and using probability to solve problems. And then we would cover our 2 benchmarks, understand probability in real-world situations, and then secondly, understanding the influence of independence and dependence of events and variables. And so how would we write that? So if we were to use poster problems, say we used roving ranges and it is a statistics and probability lesson, then we would write that as content area 2 math and then Roman numeral 2, 7C, 1, and 2. That's how we would write our standards. And that's how you would notate, because I know you have to make notations of those in your lesson plans now as a requirement.
Can you show them where to go to download materials again, maybe for the poster problems or somewhere?
You bet. Let's do that. You bet. It was poster problems that you want to see?
Yes. The question that came to me was, where do I click once I get an account to download materials?
So when you get your account and you're at the main SERP website, you're going to log in and then educator resources, and here's math. And you can scroll to the different topics we've had today. Right now we're at poster problems. And so right here, there's poster problems home, which is where we are right now. And then there's download free materials. You click this and it takes you to, so these are the different lesson plans, the handouts, and the slides. And you see that each of those are hyperlinked. Here's one on statistics and probability that we just talked about. It's a lesson called Roving Ranges. It's a dice game. It's really cool. And so you would download the lesson plan, the handouts, and the slides. Now, if you take a look over here at geometry, there's not only lesson plan, handouts, and slides, but there's also a video that you could share with your students. And again, these are going to be downloaded straight to your computer, and there's no charge. Okay, so review tools for sense making in mathematics, math by example, poster problems, and algebra by example. Do you have the info for the Master Teacher Program?
Have your PD coordinator reach out to their assigned PD specialist. He or she will know who that is, and then they'll get information for you.
All right. I have about 20 seconds to give a great plug for the 3rd and final installment of SERP Institute's free literacy resources. And we're going to be talking about science and social studies. You don't want to miss it. There's 3 elements: science generation, reading to learn in science, and then the social studies generation.
Shelley, I think we may have lost you. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And please join us in December. We do have Tech and Tell coming up on December 8th. Register in the PD portal right now. It's available. We want to thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.